see Uma so empty, especially now that we removed the cardboard. We cleaned up the hull a little bit more, and it's just so empty. But we're so excited to start building everything up again. And the next step is going to be to remove the mast. But before we take the mast off, there's a special project I've been working on. It's a summary of the last 9 years that we've been on this boat, going on all sorts of adventure. And we're going to try to share all of these 9 years in 9 minutes. Why? Because it's a catchy title. Will it be 9 minutes? I guess we'll see. Doesn't matter? Probably not. So yeah, let's start the clock. 9 years ago, fresh out of university, we had an epiphany. We didn't want to follow a predestined script, and instead, we started to grow a strong aversion towards couches. So, we left the city behind and started our dream to explore the world. For $3,000, we bought a sailboat that basically was on its way to the dumpster. No, seriously, they should have paid us to take this boat.
And they agreed to accept your offer. I think we just got a sailboat.
But excited to start our new life, we packed up all of our things and drove across the country to move into our new home. Cheers to
Thank you for the
Uma
wine.
and to a new beginning. Look at us. Young, naive. We had no idea what we were getting ourselves into.
Good morning and welcome to the Uma Boat Show. How do you feel about your first day on board?
Oh, our first day on board came with a set of challenges. You see, the main reason why we got our boat so cheap is that it had a Seas diesel engine. While we were hitting our heads against the wall trying to figure out how to make that damn thing work again, it started to snow. And we were running out of time before the marina would close for the winter. So logically, we put our boat on a truck and shipped it to Florida. And we were flat broke after that. So we went to Haiti for 3 months for an architecture project. While we were there sipping margaritas, working hard, we had a realization. We came up with a new plan to remove the unpleasant diesel motor along with the fuel tank. And instead, we would replace it with our own electric motor system. But back then, electric motors on sailboats were not very common. The technology was hard to come by, and quite frankly, it was really expensive. So we found a forklift motor from eBay and some batteries from Walmart. We put it together the best we could with the tools and knowledge we had, and after a lot of reading and a lot of YouTube videos, we made it work.
So, moment of truth. We're going to turn this on. We're going to activate the contactor.
Nervous?
A little bit. And throttle.
It works! Okay, that's great, but don't get too excited. The motor wasn't the only obstacle. We had so much to do before the boat and us would be ready to sail. The rigging was an absolute mess. The plumbing needed extra attention. Oh, and the keel was badly damaged, so we had to fix all of that. After a year on the hard, we finally splashed. And then we spent another year building and testing our electric motor, tackling many other small projects, and giving Uma a facelift. This was our first big project on the boat. Little did we know that we'd be ripping it all out again, but we'll get to that later. We spent a few months sailing up and down the coast of the US, learning how to sail and making sure the boat was seaworthy. And that summer, we knew it was time to cast our lines and sail towards the horizon. Sailing makes me happy. This is my happy place. From the very beginning, we had to become decent sailors because we couldn't operate our motor for more than 15 minutes without it overheating. And our batteries were only charging from our 2 solar panels. So the very first thing that our electric motor taught us was patience and to never be in a hurry to go anywhere, ever.
I don't really care if it takes me a week to get there, honestly. I'm quite comfortable out here on the water. I think that's what a lot of people don't get. They wonder what we do when there's no wind and we're just bobbing around in the ocean. But for us, it's kind of the same as just being on anchor. I mean, everything we have on the boat. So whether we're on anchor or out at sea, it's the same thing. We eat, we sleep, we do laundry, we read a book, play a game, edit videos, read more books, play more games, sleep some more, eat some more. Doesn't really matter where we do it, honestly.
After strong summer storms and plenty of time become at sea, we arrived in Haiti with no food, no water, and a $20 bill.
So although we only had $20 worth of Haitian good, we We spent it on the priorities. Cold beer.
Cold beer. Being in Haiti on our sailboat was our first true boat life experience, living 100% from wind and solar. And even though I grew up there, seeing my own culture and home country from the water was such a different perspective, and it was the start of a great adventure. Before we got too comfortable though, we were reminded that the Caribbean also has hurricanes. A Category 4 hurricane blew through Haiti, and after surviving 3 days of 80 knots of wind, we were ready to venture further into the tropics. We spent a year sailing along the Caribbean islands, down to the ABCs and across to Guatemala. Along the way, we've enjoyed beautiful beaches, dove in crystal clear waters, went on dozens of hikes, met amazing people and lifelong friends, and let's not forget all the gorgeous sunsets. 2 years living on a sailboat with only the bare essential taught us a lot. What we needed, what we wanted, what works and what doesn't. While we fixed and updated a few things along the way, our journey in the Caribbean came to an end when we left Mexico and sailed to Florida. It was time to start our next big refit in preparation for the Atlantic crossing. 6 months in Florida in the summer was brutal, and after all that hard work, we sailed across to the Bahamas to soak in the warm winter sun for the last time before heading to the cold climate. We are officially here, and I'm excited for the next couple of months to be in the Bahamas and show you all the amazing stuff here. The Bahamas did not disappoint. It was breathtaking. The color of the water, the warm sandy beaches, the cruising community, all of it made our time there so magical. And before we knew it, spring was upon us and it was time to leave. Everything is pretty much ready to go. The dinghy is up on deck and Danny's doing the last preparation, turning on the electronics and such. And we're ready to rock and roll. So we hoisted our sails and started sailing north with only a few months before our window to cross the North Atlantic would close.
Well, I don't know if you guys could see it on camera, but we just left the Exuma Bank and we are in the tongue of the ocean now. And we went from a nice light shallow blue to a deep dark royal blue. And that's the last beautiful blue water of the Bahamas that we're gonna see because we're staying in deep water from now on out.
But our passage out of the Bahamas was rough and things started to break.
Our bracket holding our solar panels on just keeps falling apart. The track that holds our gooseneck onto the mast that slides up and down, the whole thing is like wrenched out, so we need to go fix that.
This passage reassured us that we had one more refit to tackle before we could be ready to cross. So we stopped in North Carolina to make some more upgrades. We got new sails, non-skid paint, added some rails and lifelines, added a wood stove because we're going north, reinforced the boom, and then off we went. We couldn't pass New York City without, of course, anchoring behind the Statue of Liberty. It is the best view of Manhattan that you can get. And the best part, it's free.
Not a bad view, is it?
It's amazing. Like, that's one thing about living a mobile lifestyle is that we get to change our backyard almost every day. And our backyard today is New York freaking City. We felt like we were living in a complete parallel universe. And then we sailed through Hell's Gate. And it's called Hell's Gate for a reason, guys. It put every single sailing skills we had to the test. We had to time the tide. We tacked around ferries. We used gusts from skyscrapers to push us through the whirlpools.
That was like an incredibly intense thing that we just did. It pretty much like required every skill we've ever learned.
Yeah.
Plus some new skills that we developed along the way. I'm glad we did it. I'm glad it went so smoothly. And I definitely wouldn't recommend sailing through Hell's Gate to anyone else unless they were very, very, very confident in their sailing abilities, because it was not an easy thing to do.
A couple of days later, we made it to Dan's homeland.
Welcome to Canada.
We spent a few days exploring the beautiful Newfoundland coast, and then with a good weather forecast, full water tanks, full freezer, full batteries, well-rested minds, we pointed our bow east. Today is the day. We are leaving St. John's and starting our sail across the Atlantic Ocean. Our longest and toughest sail had begun. For 3 weeks, Arctic storm to the north and tropical low pressure systems to the south pushed us east, zigzagging back and forth trying to stay in the sweet spot where the wind was manageable. But I'll be honest, it was not an easy passage. I am not a big fan of those waves.
I'm gonna fill in tonight to like 30, maybe gusting to like 35 or higher.
Knowing we were all alone, hundreds of miles from land in all directions, with strong cold winds and large breaking waves was unsettling. And yet, doing this together made it all okay. 18 days and 2,300 nautical miles later, we arrived in the UK. Here it is, guys. We are officially in England. We were filled with the greatest sense of accomplishment. We did it. It took us 4 years, but we can finally cross that off of the bucket list. And time. That is it, guys. That's 9 minutes. So come back next week for part 2. Just kidding. But before we do you hear that? Whoa, V? Oh, what are you doing here? Are you okay?
No, I'm not okay. This is so sad. Like, what did you do to Uma? She's gone.
We're gonna put her back together. She's gonna be fine. Do you wanna come out? No? Okay. I mean, I know you're sad. Is there anything I can do to help?
Yeah, here.
Okay. Oh, it's wet. Oh, you're disgusting. Ugh. Wait, is this a sponsored bit? Why don't you do it?
No, please, you do it. I can't.
Okay,
I can't do it.
It's fine. I'll do it for you. You owe me though. This video is sponsored by BetterHelp. Okay, here we go. BetterHelp's mission is to make therapy more affordable and more accessible, especially if you're limited on the options in your area, if you travel for a living, or if you live in somebody's brain. Really? Okay. BetterHelp is a platform that makes finding a therapist easier because it's all online, it's remote, and by filling out a few questions, you get matched with a professional therapist in just a few days. Oh, there's more. If you don't really fit with the therapist you have, which is common in therapy, you can easily find a new match without any stress. So, if you're struggling with personal loss, if you're feeling empty inside, what? Or if your life is a chaotic mess, living on an empty hall. Okay, what's up with all these? Okay, yeah, sure, whatever, I keep going. You can consider online therapy with BetterHelp.
You're doing great.
To sign up, just head over to betterhelp.com/sailinguma or click the link on the description below, and you can save up to 10% off your first month. XOXO V. Great.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So,
You did great.
okay.
Okay.
Well,
Bye.
that's that. So, as I was saying, 2 days after we arrived from crossing an ocean, we brought our little vessel to the Southampton Boat Show. It was surreal to have Uma tied up between all the luxury yachts. For 10 full days, we had our boat open for everyone to check out and to hang out with us over a few drinks. And every single afternoon after the show would close, we would take patrons and friends out for a sunset sail. It was the perfect way to end each day. We ended up wintering in the UK and, as always, making a few more upgrades. The main one, however, was upgrading our DIY electric motor and installing a used motor from Oceanvolt. The goal with the electric motor has always been to generate our own power from the prop spinning while we sail, something our DIY motor could never do. It also meant that we could now finally motor for more than 30 minutes. You know, if we wanted to. The following spring, we left the UK. Our original plan was to sail to Iceland for the summer, but the world went a bit mad that year, so after sailing to the Netherlands for a few weeks, we fled north to Norway. We officially left the Netherlands. It was a bit of a bumpy start leaving Vlieland, coming out of the channels, but we are now in deep water, and we just made our turn downwind and are pointing straight towards the south coast of Norway. And we only have about 280 miles to go. Norway was not on our radar before, but as soon as we arrived into our first anchorage, we fell in love. The rugged coastline and the vast expanses of epic remote scenery were now our home for the next year. Sailing up the coast and experiencing all the seasons was so magical. From the breathtaking hikes to the colorful towns and cities, this place was becoming my absolute favorite place of all times.
Well, one of the really cool parts about sailing this late in the season is that the sun's so low on the horizon that every hour is golden hour. And so everything just looks absolutely beautiful in this light.
And then there was winter. Oh, winter. There are no words, people, to express how much I love winter. And that's a lot coming from a Caribbean girl. It's so cool. Like, I've seen snow before, but this is the first time that we're seeing snow with Uma. This is the first time actually I think I'm seeing this much snowfall. But I'm not talking about the long dark months. Those were okay. We slept all the time and the northern lights were great. But I'm talking about when the sun started to rise again and we sailed through the most epic of places.
Cheers to crossing the Arctic Circle in the winter.
Yeah.
All right.
Every second was magical. I didn't want to close my eyes because it was so amazing. And even the non-pleasant things like shoveling snow off the deck or being so cold I couldn't feel my face or sailing into a blizzard, all of that was beautiful. We sailed the entire coast of Norway from south to north, checking out some drop-dead gorgeous anchorages along the way and arriving in Tromsø in the early spring. And since we came all this way, it would be a shame to just turn around and head south from here. We had to at least try to get a teeny bit further north. We got it.
We got it?
We got our permit.
Yes.
Ah, high five. Yeah. So one of the reasons we sailed all winter to make it all the way up to Tromsø was because we've been planning to continue to sail even further north to Svalbard, which, if you don't know where Svalbard is an island about just as close as you can sail to the North Pole. So a few weeks ago, we filled out our application and we just got an email back from the governor's office with our permission to sail to Svalbard. Most boats going there are heavy steel or aluminum expedition boats with large crew and even larger diesel tanks. So going there with our little vessel was a challenge that we were ready to tackle. It is 11 o'clock at night. And we are just about ready to officially leave Tromsø. The cool thing about sailing in July here is that it doesn't really matter what time of day it is. You can go sailing, you can go hiking, you can go rock climbing in the middle of the night, because whether it's 1 o'clock in the morning or 1 o'clock in the afternoon, they both look exactly the same. So everything is ready and we are about to leave the dock and officially start our sail towards Svalbard. Only 14 sailboats went to Svalbard that summer, but that year we became the first all-electric sailboat to ever make the trip. Well, I guess now it's pretty safe to say that we officially made it to Svalbard. Going up to 78 degrees north was the pinnacle of everything we've ever done to this point. It felt like we were on a different planet. And in a short time, we experienced everything. This is insane. Waking up to polar bears right next to our boat, sunlight 24 hours a day, fending off icebergs, visiting an abandoned Russian mine and doing silks on a Russian crane, dealing with the fast shifting and unstable winds, having the cutest encounter with a baby seal, and let's not forget, sailing in front of glaciers. Svalbard was the most exhausting and the most rewarding experience we've ever had.
I never thought we'd actually be able to get into these places with our boat, but it's been really cool to be able to do all this stuff, just the two of us on our little boat.
And after what felt like a very short month, we knew that our window to leave was fast approaching. Once the fall storm season starts, there is rarely a long enough window to make it back to the mainland. Hurricane force winds begin to blow on a daily basis. And as beautiful as this place is, the last thing we wanted was to be stuck up here for the winter. Well, we just left the glacier and are officially sailing back to Longyearbyen today. It's been an amazing couple of days sailing around the fjord, seeing polar bears and meeting up with friends and seeing the glacier. And now we're going to wrap things up back in the main town and start making the preparation to leave Svalbard, to sail out of Svalbard into our next destination. As soon as the forecast was favorable, we left Svalbard and started sailing 1,000 nautical miles south to Iceland. After a few days of heavy weather, the wind died down, and with light winds and sunny skies, we decided to make a quick stop to the island of Jan Mayen, a tiny speck of volcanic land in the middle of the Greenland Sea. Because this island is so exposed and there's no protected anchorage, it's rare to get the right weather to stop here. This was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for us, and we felt incredibly lucky. The wind was light for 3 days, so we enjoyed our time exploring the island, got some much needed rest, and when the wind picked up, we continued our journey south. But not before we had the most epic send-off we've ever had, with thousands of birds escorting us from the island.
The sailing up here is definitely hard. It's the most difficult sailing we've ever done. Not just the conditions, not just the wind, but it's just cold and the sea state and the constantly changing weather. But it's absolutely beautiful. I'm so glad we came this far north and explored all these places because it's so much more amazing than it looks on film. I'm really glad we did it. I'm also pretty excited to sail south.
Along this passage, we were greeted by the first sunset we've had in months, although it was short-lived and the rest of the sail was in the fog.
It's amazing out here. It's super foggy. Definitely less than a quarter mile of visibility, probably 10 to 15 boat lengths, but it's kind of spooky and mysterious and beautiful at the same time.
Sailing in Iceland was a challenge. The good sunny days were incredible, but the wind was often against the current. There was always a fog right off the coast, so we could rarely see anything, and we found ourselves hiding from storms a lot.
It is currently gusting about 60 to 80 knots. This is the strongest wind I think I've ever seen since the hurricane like 5 years ago.
After 2 months in Iceland, we took the last weather window south to Scotland. We had to dance between 2 revolving storms for 4 days. It was rough, but at least we didn't have to winter in Iceland. We took a shortcut through a 200-year-old Scottish canal before heading further south, spending the winter in France. Bonjour! And in the spring, we had a beautiful sail across the Bay of Biscay, made a quick pit stop in Gibraltar, got some seafarers training, and we finally now have a certificate proving we can sail. Then we made our way into the Mediterranean Sea. It had always been our goal from day one to sail our own boat into the Med, and here we are, with our own boat, finally, in the Med. After a summer of enjoying beautiful anchorages and catching up with good friends, we knew there were even more adventures over the horizon, more of the world to see. But the ocean is an incredible harsh environment to live in. Uma was tired and well worn, so here we are again, undergoing another refit. And that brings us to today, with an empty hull, a clean slate, a new beginning, and many more adventures to come. So cheers to the next 9 years.